Good morning. I'm Colonel Rich Goldenberg, and on behalf of the Adjutant General, welcome to the Division of Military and Naval Affairs 20th Anniversary Remembrance Ceremony of September 11, 2001. Our presiding official for today's ceremony is the Adjutant General of New York, Major General Ray Shields. Other distinguished guests include Major General Timothy LaBarge, Assistant Adjutant General Air, Major General Mike Natale, Assistant Adjutant General Army, Brigadier General Isabel Smith, Director of the Joint Staff, Chief Warrant Officer 5, Jackie O'Keefe, New York State Command Chief Warrant Officer, Command Sergeant Major David Piaworski, New York Army National Guard Command Sergeant Major, and Command Chief Master Sergeant Denny Richardson, New York Air National Guard Command Chief. We are also pleased to welcome distinguished visitors, including Charlene Cordero, Assistant Secretary for Public Safety, and Allison Baker, Senior Policy Advisor for Public Safety. We would also acknowledge those soldiers for life joining us today, including retired Major General Joseph Toledo, the former Adjutant General of New York with his daughter Dmna, and retired Brigadier General Paul Genero, former 42nd Infantry Division Commander, and his wife Ro, along with retired Command Sergeant Major Bob Van Pelt, former New York State Command Sergeant Major, and representative of the Capital District Chapter of the Association of the United States Army with his wife Debbie. Thank you all for joining us here today. We begin with the presentation of the colors, our national anthem, sung by Sergeant First Class Brooke Albert, and the invocation that will be delivered by Chaplain Lieutenant Colonel Douglas Brock. As an outdoor ceremony, military personnel in uniform will please render honors.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
I invite you to join with me in prayer. Glorious, gracious God, I pray that you would be present here and with us and our nation as we remember that day 20 years ago, when so few caused the death of so many. I pray the wake-up call of that day would not be forgotten, that you would bring comfort to the mourning, hope for the grieving, encouragement for the struggling, and community for all. Build empowerment and unity among us. Grant us peace, wisdom to know the next right step, and strength to take it according to your grace. Amen.
Please be seated. "20 years ago tomorrow, New York Air National Guard Technical Sergeant Jeremy Powell was the first member of the United States military to realize September 11, 2001 was not going to be an ordinary fall day. Powell was a full-time air guardsman assigned to the Northeast Air Defense Sector in Rome, New York. The unit's mission was to control the air defense of the northern United States east of the Mississippi. At 8:37 a.m., Powell, who was then a senior radar technician, took a call from a Federal Aviation Administration controller in Boston, informing him an airliner may have been hijacked and that the FAA needed a fighter jet to get visual on the plane. Air Defense Sector commanders called the 102nd Fighter Wing of the Massachusetts Air National Guard and directed them to get 2 F-15s airborne. At 8:46 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11 crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. The South Tower was struck at 9:03 a.m. by United Airlines Flight 175. At 9:37, American Airlines Flight 77 struck the Pentagon. As the nation responded to the hijacked planes, the 174th Fighter Wing at Hancock Field in Syracuse launched 2 F-16 fighters in an attempt to intercept United Flight 93, which would crash in Pennsylvania near Shanksville at 10:03 a.m. after passengers challenged their hijackers in an attempt to retake the plane. By the end of September 11th, 4,265 members of the New York Army and Air National Guard were on state active duty to respond to the attacks. Soldiers did not wait for the usual phone call alerting them to report to their armory for a state emergency. They saw what was happening on television, put on their uniforms, and reported in. "The New York Army National Guard was magnificent," said retired Air National Guard Major General Thomas McGuire, then serving as the Adjutant General. "The soldiers went to the sound of the guns." When the sun set on September 11, 2001, there were some 1,500 New York Army National Guard soldiers on duty in Lower Manhattan, assisting the police and fire departments, and another 1,500, mostly from units of the 42nd Infantry Division, arriving to assist on September 12th. The flags you see here at the National Guard headquarters represent the 2,977 victims of September 11th, a visual reminder of the loss. The Division of Military and Naval Affairs extends our thanks to the Capital District of New York Association of the United States Army for their efforts to place this remembrance on this solemn occasion. 5 members of the New York National Guard were among the 2,763 people who perished in the collapse of the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center. New York Army National Guard First Lieutenant Gerard Baptiste responded as a firefighter. Army National Guard Sergeant Larry Bowman was a security guard in the Twin Towers who died helping evacuate people. And Army National Guard Specialist Roshan Ramesh Singh worked in the towers and did not escape. Air National Guard Staff Sergeant Andy Brunn was a firefighter responding in the North Tower, while Air National Guard Staff Sergeant Jerome Dominguez was a member of the New York Police Department. Thousands of the New York National Guard soldiers and airmen who responded on September 11th later deployed to combat in Iraq and Afghanistan in the years following the attacks. 39 members of our force have died in those deployments since September 11, 2001. We honor their memory and their legacy. In the lobby of our headquarters, visitors will notice an exhibit of steel and aluminum sheathing from the World Trade Center to remind us of their service and sacrifice, of guardsmen and women and first responders, of all the 9/11 memorial sites. Never forget. Ladies and gentlemen, we are especially pleased to welcome the former Adjutant General of New York, former Commander of the 42nd Infantry Division, and Commander of the Response Forces in New York City, Joint Task Force 42, following the arrival of the division headquarters in New York City on September 22nd for Operation Trade Center, retired Major General Joseph Toludo.
I think this is a flyover. Oh, no, it's not. Okay. Can you all hear pretty well? First of all, I want to thank Major General Shields for inviting me to say a few words today. I appreciate it greatly, sir. And I sat down, I thought I'd make some prepared remarks, but as I got thinking about it, I thought about what I wanted to say to you, and I just think I'll speak from the heart and tell you how I feel about today. First of all, if you are 30 years old or younger, would you raise your hand? Sergeant Major, don't raise your hand. Van Pelt. 30 years old, okay. I guess the point I want to make about age is trying to put the 9/11 and what happened in perspective. You know, December 7th, 1941 was a special day. It was before my birth. Of course, that's Pearl Harbor Day. That meant a lot to a lot of people, and I certainly learned about it. I learned the significance of it, but I didn't experience the change from pre-December 7th to post-December 7th. And so for many of us today, 9/11, of course, was a benchmark event in our history. It changed the world. It changed Americans' lives for sure. And in particular, it changed our military's lives for sure. Prior to 9/11, I have pretty good background in the prime of my time, 20 years before this 20 years, and it was a different world. And I could walk my family up to the gate in an airport. I could walk into a building without going through a metal detector, and I think you get the point. Some of our citizens don't know any different. My daughter and I were talking about my granddaughter today. She's 20 years old. This is the world she came into. So she hasn't seen the progression. But post 9/11 is a different world for sure. And to bring it down from how it changed all of America and Americans' lives, I would like to just bring it on down to our military. There was a great sacrifice to pay after this 2977 of sacrifice for family and soldiers alike, airmen. The task force we had in New York did a magnificent job. The soldiers and airmen, naval militia, and our state New York Guard. Fabulous job. I was proud to be part of it. But all the deployments after changed our National Guard in particular and brought it into greater prominence. The citizen soldier has always been fabulous from day one of the birth of this country. A lot of people don't know that history. But what the National Guard has accomplished and what it has shown in the past 20 years is nothing but extraordinary. And so I congratulate you on what you have done post 9/11. Certainly the most recent deployments, the pandemic support you've given, the civil support that you've given law enforcement, natural disasters, all the things that the Guard has done before have been done magnificently in this post 9/11 time frame. And this country reveres its military. And why wouldn't it? It's an organization that delivers on its oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, without question. When called, you serve. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of what our military has done, especially in the past 20 years, and continues to do. You are the rock of our nation. God bless you. God bless America.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Adjutant General of New York, Major General Ray Shields.
Well, welcome everyone. Hopefully you can hear us over the helicopters. That is the flyover, sir. They're just on the ground still, but they'll be coming shortly. So, but welcome to the Division of Military and Naval Affairs and the state's military forces remembrance of September 11, 2001. Governor Kathy Hochul could not be here today, but she did ask me to acknowledge her deep sense of gratitude to our National Guard for all they do and to convey her prayers and best wishes. We also welcome a couple members of the governor's executive staff, to include Charlene Cardero, who we work with all the time, Allison Baker. Thank you for joining us here this morning. Thank you, General Toledo, for your remarks today. Thank you, sir, for leading the state's military response immediately following the attacks on the World Trade Center. It's always great to spend time with you, and I had a chance to talk to Susan yesterday, so thank you very much for coming today. Other distinguished guests and senior leaders, thank you for being here today as we remember and pay tribute to the fallen. This weekend, we mark 20 years since the terrorist attacks of September 1st or September 11th, 2001. 9/11, as it is commonly called, ranks with the surprise attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941, as immensely consequential events. Both attacks changed not only the United States, but indeed the entire world. As Colonel Goldenberg noted, it was members of the New York National Guard who were the first military responders to the attacks on that sunny September morning. Throughout that day, New York National Guard soldiers and airmen reported to their armories and air bases around the state, not knowing if they would be needed. In the finest traditions of the National Guard and indeed the United States military, our soldiers and airmen ran to the sound of the guns, ready and able to respond as needed. Since then, a generation of our National Guard soldiers and airmen, New York Naval Militia, and New York Guard members, and very importantly, the Division of Military and Naval Affairs civilian employees, have spent their careers with war as a constant backdrop. We became very familiar with deployments, yellow ribbon events, dealing with families when their loved ones were injured, and unfortunately notifying the families of 39 New York National Guard service members that their loved one had been killed in combat. I know for many of you, 9/11 happened when you were very young. It's something from the history books, sort of like General Toledo was talking about, like remembering the Alamo or Pearl Harbor. Those of us who are older still remember that day vividly. We remember where we were and what we were doing in the days afterwards. I remember watching it unfold on television right here in a corner office, but we all knew our lives had changed forever. I also want to thank the Association of the United States Army for their efforts to recognize the sacrifice of 9/11 with these 2,977 remembrance flags. Looking out on this small field, it reminds us that each one represents a family lost, a loved one taken from us that day, 2,977 American flags in all. Countless others have died since 9/11, from injuries suffered that day and from breathing toxic fumes during the weeks that followed, and thousands more gave their lives during combat operations in Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, and other war zones resulting from the global war on terror. We must remember September 11th because it changed us. It changed New York City. It changed our state. It changed our nation. It changed the very nature of the National Guard. It simply changed everything. Following 9/11, our New York military forces served in every corner of our state and across the globe. From the response and recovery efforts at Ground Zero in Manhattan to security at airports across the state, we served alongside the police and firefighters and others helped New York City recover. We remember the bravery and valor of the firefighters, police, and paramedics who rushed toward the towers. They ran towards the fires to save people. We remember 412 responders who died in the line of duty. They wore all sorts of uniforms for New York City: firefighters, Port Authority police, New York police officers, and emergency medical technicians. Every member of our force who served in those days following 9/11 knew that our nation would take the fight to those responsible, especially after President Bush visited Ground Zero. During the past 20 years, members of the New York National Guard have deployed overseas more than 25,000 times. Many have deployed 2 and 3 times or more. They fought to keep terrorists from striking the United States again. The veterans of Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, the Horn of Africa, and all the corners of the world where operations have taken us helped prevent further attacks and in their own way kept us safe. After 20 years, with major operations now concluding, our veterans can proudly say they helped defeat Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan and elsewhere. They did what our nation asked of them to do. Today we are a generation removed from 9/11, but we pause to reflect and remember the sacrifice and service of so many. The events of 9/11 defined what the National Guard represents today to all Americans. And we are thankful for this new generation of citizen soldiers and airmen. Many had not been born yet, but they are picking up the torch of service. This new generation brings the same dedication to service, to relieve suffering, save lives, and respond domestically or overseas when called. They have proven themselves time and time again, from storm response to pandemic response to the attack on the United States Capitol on January 6, 2021. Tomorrow, please pause to remember those who died on September 11, 2001. Thank you for spending a few minutes with us today, and remember the National Guard motto: always ready, always there. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will now honor the victims of September 11th with a moment of silence, followed by the playing of taps and our benediction from Chaplain Brock. Please render honors during taps. We begin with a moment of silence. Thank you.
May the Lord bless us and keep us. Build among us mutual compassion, unity in diversity, and grace. God, grant us your mercy, blessings upon us, and God bless America. Amen.
This concludes today's ceremony. On behalf of the Adjutant General, thank you all for attending.